Hey everyone, welcome to this Quick Start Basics for Network Marketers. We're so happy to be with you. Very excited to share some really great stuff again tonight. Our goal is to equip and empower and entertain and educate you on the basics of building your business. Our goal with the school is to teach you how to build a strong and profitable business. Before we get started, I invite you to grab a pen and paper so we can let you know some of the things that are coming up. Noon Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, is our MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, where Jeff and I cover one of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. I just am getting so much out of learning and teaching and sharing in there, and the people that come on too and share their tips as well. And I would like to thank Lisa, who's on the call tonight, Lisa Roush, for sending a friend over to those shows. He's a member of the group now, so thank you very much. We're getting a lot of reports from people like they wouldn't miss it any more than they would miss their exercise or vitamins. So thank you, Lisa, for spreading the word. She goes, how can, it's just natural when you like something, so thank you. And Tuesday is our Facebook Live training with Jeff and Bess, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, where we cover one of the aspects of the 10 core commitments. Only we go kind of deep into that. Then Wednesday night, as you know, is our MLM Leadership University at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and that is recorded, of course. That is where we cover one of the John Maxwell books on leadership, one a month. And we have some just lovely ones lined up for 2019, and we're giving a sort of a free gift class right now, October through December, for the members in the Quick Start Basics class, and people are loving those. Some people are getting so much personal growth that they say it's just worth that alone, just with personal growth alone. We do have a Black Friday special for those who want to continue on beyond the December. December would be the end of the gift month, but we're going to continue on doing it, of course, into 2019 every Wednesday night. We're going to take one of the, we've got more books lined up to take. And some people love it so much they want to keep going, and we wanted to offer a special 40% off Black Friday special for those who want to do both, the Quick Start Basics and that. So it's a 40% off to cover 2019, and a couple people have already jumped onto that because they like the discount. In fact, I want to just acknowledge these leaders. One is Becky Gustafson, who's on the call tonight. She was the very first one to jump on it, and she has also invited people to the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. She's invited guests to come onto there, and she's also invited people to come onto this Quick Starts Basics class, and some of them have joined. So I wanted to thank you, Becky, for being such a leader as to join, to bring people on, to take advantage of that commitment for yourself for all of 2019. So you're set up for both classes now, for both of them. And to Jim Bailey, who's done the same thing. He was the sort of a forerunner of committing, giving himself a whole year in the Quick Start Basics, even before we had this special. And now he's given himself that commitment of the Leadership University for 2019 as well. So thank you guys for leading. And I, at this point, would also like to acknowledge Tammy White, who's not on the call at this point anyway. I talked with her earlier today, and she wasn't sure she'd be able to make it. But Tammy, if you're watching the replay, I just want to acknowledge you for all that you've done. In only a week, I keep hearing more stuff about you. Last week, she was on the call and said, well, you guys, I've quadrupled my sales from last month to this month, and I'm almost to my next rank. Well, this week, she passed that rank, and she's almost to her next one. Plus, she's earned a car bonus. So that's what's happened for her. All the while, she has been battling challenges with families, family, health, other issues. So it hit the things she's going through. It would be easy for anyone to say, well, I can't build my business at this time because this and this is going on. But she's almost like a no excuses gal, and she just keeps doing it. So there's a big fire under her team right now, and John Maxwell talks about the big mo, the law of the big mo, big momentum, and he says there's momentum's great, but a leader has to start it. So today I asked her, how did you start that fire? Would you care to share with us what you did? And she said, it's just being consistent. That was her main tip for me. She said, most of my sales are on Facebook, and I'm just consistent. I show up every day. I'm available for people. And I know she cares about them. I know she has a big heart too. But she said it was just that consistency. But I also know that it's numbers. It's really both. It's doing a good, as much as you can every day, consistently. So, Tammy, if you're watching this, good job, girl. Well done. And thank you for tips. Thanks for being a wonderful role model, as has been Monica, Ignacio, and a lot of other people on here, too. So I'm just highlighting Tammy right now, but I really would like to acknowledge everyone in the group, because everyone's doing their best. Everyone has a different story and different challenges, but we all have them. We all have those challenges. So well done, everybody. Coming up events, looking clear over to January, is January 25th to 27th, and that is the Launch Free Enterprise Summit. It's going to be in Indianapolis. Jeff and Brandy are putting this on. I will be there speaking, and Jeff and many other fine speakers. And this is where you learn your mindset and language about, and tips and strategies about money, about financial stuff. So that's very, very important. Let's see, our newest members are Eve Hummel and Kim Basin. I think that we did welcome them, but I just want to acknowledge them again. And I think that y'all have heard their introductions already, that Jeff Gamble is a certified John Maxwell trainer speaker, so he's perfect to lead the leadership classes, Leadership University, and has recruited over 500 people frontline, so he speaks so much from experience. Jeff, I really appreciate your stories and your expertise and the new things you always bring to these classes. I was talking to one of the members today, and she goes, I'm working on getting my first set of 10 done so I can get my certificate, and I think I'm about ready, but I'll listen to the replay and I'll think, I haven't heard this before, have I? So I said, no, we're always bringing new stuff to it. So thank you for that, and all of your years of experience. We partner to bring you these generic trainings, the Quick Start Basics, which is the 10 core commitments for network marketers, tried and true over time, over decades. These have been proven. And it's everything that you need to know for fast success and to teach your team. So you're in the perfect place for the foundation and to duplicate that with your team. Every Sunday here, of course, at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Sundays. Our purpose is to help people grow, to educate, empower, and equip entrepreneurs and create independent servant leaders. So, let's see. This is for all levels, network marketers who are just starting or who are a long time. We actually have both in the club. Network marketers that are moving or who are stuck. All you need to do is practice these basics. And I'll go ahead and mention the basics here. They are, number 1, getting started right. Number 2, be here a year from now. Number 3, personal development. Number 4, market daily. Number 5, present daily. Number 6, attend a weekly presentation. Number 7, attend a weekly core training, which you're on right now. And number 8, attend a monthly regional. And number 9, attend all company conventions, which that monthly regional, an example would be what's coming up in Indianapolis in January. And number 10 is what we're covering tonight, the MAP, or the Monthly Action Plan. So this covers the skills, the mindsets, everything, the 7 skills like Eric Worre teaches. It covers mindset too, so it's everything that you need. This is where you connect with people, interact, have fun along the way, and it helps to keep you stay on track. It deepens it. You cannot get enough of the basics. We invite you to pass this on to your team, to take this back to your team, and to keep listening until you can do that. Keep learning and keep absorbing, keep practicing, and then pass this on to your team. Helps them to keep track. When you have completed all 10 of the lessons, including the replays if you're not attending live, then let me know and we will award you a certificate with the first level. Some people have already done that and they're working on their second level. There are 4 in all that would span a year's time. But of course we invite you to stay in here in this class for good because of what you deepen and learn and are able to turn around and teach that too. So message me when you've completed all 10, either for the first set or the second set. Deepen your roots in this class with the core commitments. I'll turn it over to you now, Jeff.
Okay, awesome. You know, first things first, congratulations to Becky and Jim for being the first to get started and kind of commit to next year. I mean, that's what it's really about. I mean, it's great to have the discount, but it's really it's actually proven that people who plan ahead, which we're going to talk about planning tonight, people who plan ahead statistically make more money than those that don't. If you're running from month to month or day to day, then typically what you're doing is you're running circumstantially through your life, whatever circumstances pop up, and it's actually statistically proven the farther you plan out in advance, the more money you make. Typically what they find is millionaires, there's a certain date in mind, you know, few years out, 10 million, 100 million, and if you go out to the billionaires actually typically are planning things out beyond their lifetime. Which I thought was really interesting. I can't remember what book or if that was a study that I read that in, but it was really, really interesting based on how people plan. The average person, the majority of us do what? We plan not at all. And those of us without a plan to, you know, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I actually pulled up some really good quotes that I thought these would be appropriate for tonight, you know, before we get started. But, you know, I wanted to say congratulations. I did have a conversation with Tammy, and Tammy, she kind of downplayed her success. She's like, yeah, I moved up 2 levels, but I'm only making blah, 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 blah. And whatever that number was, I was like, do you realize that the money coming in, the consistent money coming in is actually more than the average network marketer makes in a lifetime? She's like, oh, I never knew that. I said, and you got to the point where it's consistent money. It's great to have one big sale or one big day, and I only say that because we just went through Black Friday, and certain companies have sales on Black Friday, and people make a bunch of money on Black Friday. What about January? What about February? I don't know about you, but I have bills the rest of the year. I mean, it's really it's sad. I mean, I was like, why don't I just have bills when I have money? I mean, that would be so much more convenient. I mean, call Visa, call MasterCard, and tell them they should sign me up on that plan. But I found out I had bills every month, and I wanted to build something consistent. So what I talked to her about is I said, you have to realize the amount of money you're talking about making, what's so awesome about it is that it's consistent. It's coming in regardless. And that's super important, and very few people ever experience that, and it's an awesome, awesome feeling to have it coming in like this. So Bess went over getting started right, and I wanted to go over these quotes real quick because they're just perfect for tonight and planning and doing things. And it says, you know, failing to plan is planning to fail. That's Alan Lakin. A goal without a plan is just a wish. And it's signed by somebody, I don't even know who signed it because it looks like an A-S-A-Y, but I have no idea. It could be a long name. I don't know. It takes real planning to organize this kind of chaos. I was like, how perfect is that? It takes real planning to organize this kind of chaos. I mean, that could be the motto of most network marketers, you know, because I did, after being coached by David Bird and some of the people that I've worked with, that he's like, I was like, well, you know, the ADHD that I have, he's like, you have. He's like, you have, Mark has, Todd has. I mean, he named off basically the whole organization. He goes, you guys all have it. He's like, it's part of becoming successful. So if you've ever wondered, you know, why you're that special person that has 100 things going on and you're working on 52 projects, it's part of becoming successful. It's just learning how to organize the chaos. Make time for planning. Wars are won in the general's tent. I thought that was really cool. That's actually Stephen Covey, who is a, famous author, writer, speaker. This one's good too. An hour of planning can save you 10 hours of doing. Which, if you've ever been there and you've worked on something for a while, I was always like, start the project and then read the directions, which is kind of backwards. And then I would get to that point where I would read the directions and realize I forgot the foundational thing first that had to be done before you built the rest of it. So I have to take it apart and do it over again. Where do you belong on this list? This is really good. Where do you belong on this list? There are 3 kinds of people. Those who make things happen. That's number 1. Those who make things happen. 2, those that watch things happen. And 3, those that wondered what happened. And you kind of have to wonder where you're at on that list. Like, if you're wondering where we're at in things, I know what number you are. This one's good. Proper planning and preparation prevents poor performance. It's like tongue-tied. It's like a word workout. Paul J. Myers, productivity is never an accident. It is always a result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused effort. I almost said forced, but focused effort. Paul J. Myers goes on. Paul J. Myers was like the king of planning. I never met anybody, if you look at the chart of personalities, Paul J. Myers was like a high C, like off the chart high C, when it came to organization and planning and, organizing things. He said, plan your progress carefully, hour by hour, day by day, month by month. Organized activity and maintained enthusiasm are the wellspring of your power. I mean, he just believed on doing the thing until it compounded again and again and again and again and again, and it got to where you wanted to go. If you're not making the progress that you'd like to make and are capable of making, it is simply because your goals are not clearly defined. He really believed, like, once you saw exactly what you want, once you used visualization, once you had it written down, once you had the reasons why you were doing it, and you had enough reasons, enough compelling reasons, and you had enough, basically, consequences, if you didn't, he said it's really easy to move forward. And he went on to say 90% of all those who fail are actually not defeated, they simply quit. So here's the last one. Crystallize your goals, make a plan for achieving them, and set yourself a deadline. That's one of the key things that I find most people forget. They don't have a clearly defined goal. A clearly defined goal has a number on it. And what I mean by a number, it's a number of people, it's a number of dollars, it's a number of hours, it's a number of pounds, or kilograms, or ounces, depending on what you're doing. Legally, hopefully. I say that because I have some weird friends. Then, with supreme confidence, determination, and disregard for obstacles and other people's criticism, you carry out your plan. Paul J. Myers basically said this. He's like, I plan my year before the year begins. I plan my month before the month begins. I plan my week before the week begins, day before the day begins. Therefore, I'm always focused on the future of where I'm going to be, not on the past and not on the present circumstances. I don't know if I ever said this before, but he would actually make his plan, have what he's going to do for the day ready, and he would go into the day and actually walk into his office, close the door, and the secretary and the people who worked for him knew that they were not to disturb him. Unless he came out and asked, nobody went in, no phone calls got forwarded to him during that time. He was able to block out that. I mean, that's some extreme focus. I don't know what kind of coffee he was drinking, and he actually was really strict. No alcohol, no coffee, no drugs, no anything. Lived to 81. At 50, decided to turn into a pro tennis player, like just on a whim. He's like, I'm going to be a pro tennis player, and I'm going to win the tournament in 5 years. I think it was like a bet, if I remember the story right. It was a bet between somebody else. He was trying to basically teach people about consistency and persistency. And he's like, if you do this, you can almost dominate in any industry. And somebody challenged him on physical talent. They said, yeah, but certain people have certain genes. And he's like, yeah, certain people do buy certain jeans. They're usually buying too expensive jeans and their fat butt won't fit into them. I mean, he was ridiculous when you challenged him. And he's like, okay, I'll pick up a sport. I kind of like tennis. I'll pick up a sport in tennis, and in 5 years I'll win the Masters champion for the world. And he did it. I mean, it's ridiculous. Him and John Goddard are probably two of the people that would be really good to look up and follow. Paul J. Myers owned approximately 50 different companies when he passed away. His last, I think when he was 80 years old, I know he actually profited $140 million from all of his businesses, which is, I mean, that's a pretty solid year. And he goes, you know what's interesting is I made more money this year than I did in the first 50 years of my life combined. It's pretty decent, you know. I mean, that may not be where you want to get to, but it was pretty decent. My friends actually got to sit with him, one of my teachers. David Bird actually was the kind of the #1 student of Paul J. Meyer. He actually ran his company, most profitable company, LMI, Leadership Management Institute, for about 10 years. I think it was 10 or 11 years, but he worked for him for 30 years. And when Paul J. Myers passed away, David Bird actually retired. And then my friend kept harassing him and brought him out of retirement to do coaching, personal coaching. And that's what he does now. $1,000 an hour when I last talked to him. So, I mean, if you charge $1,000 an hour, you have to get results. Because if you pay somebody $1,000 an hour and you don't get results, those people will come and find you, you know, and they have questions, and probably not nice ones. So that's kind of my training of where I came from, what I do. And I just kind of want to run through two things with you tonight. Number one is kind of the overall plan for what you're doing, and then the specific plan on how to take this map, this massive action plan, and how to apply it to these 10 core and what to do. So let's start with the first part. The first part is just overall. So, and I'm going to give you what David Bird taught us, and I edited some of it to make it easier because, here's what I mean by easier. David Bird's average person that he worked with made over $250,000 and had been in their position over a decade. To give you kind of some perspective, he goes, the average person I worked with made over $250,000, usually $500,000 to $1 million a year. They were high-end executives in Fortune 500 companies. And you know what their #1 issue was? Stagnation. Stagnation. You know why? Because when you have a goal to get to the top and you reach the top, where do you go from there? It's the same thing that was true with astronauts. Astronauts usually come back, and after they made it to the moon or space or wherever they went to, they would come back and they'd usually have very depressing lives. And the reason being they had high rate of divorce, high rate of alcoholism, high rate of suicide. And the reason being is once you made it to the moon, where the heck else are you going to go? They didn't understand how to keep pushing the limit to keep life interesting. Tony Robbins talks about the 6 basic human needs. And I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but I know the first 3 really well. The first one is the need for basically sameness, or a foundation where everything stays the same. So that way you know when you get up, the sky is going to still be there. Like if you woke up and you didn't know if the sky was going to be there, the ground was going to be underneath your feet, it would be really hard to go to sleep. You'd be under anxiety consistently. The problem is if everything is the same for too long, what happens? You get bored, right? You get bored and you're going to do one or two things. You're going to sabotage yourself, or you're going to start buying stuff on IKEA just to change. You're like, you know what? We need to change this room. Let's burn all the furniture, tear down a wall, get a new couch. Let's go shopping. That'll change my. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to add. It's the need for variety. The need for variety is number 2. So that's why. And Tony Robbins talks about this. That's basically why we're crazy. You know, the need for everything to stay the same, and our second basic need is the need for everything to change. He's like, you wonder why you're nuts and you fight everybody? That's why. Oh, thank you. Coffee. Coffee does wonders. So that's the 2 basic needs. Brandy's here. And then the third basic human need is the need to be significant. Significance. The need to do something important. The need to be involved in something where we feel significant. He goes on to say this is the reason for violence. Now that might not mean a lot to you right here, but it made a lot of sense to me. He goes, the reason we will always have violence is think about it. When people have the same and they feel frustrated and they feel trapped, they want to make an immediate change and they want to feel significance. So the easiest way to do that is to be violent, because all of a sudden you have 100% attention on you. You have no idea what's going to happen next, and you're the most important person in the room. And the more we glorify it, the more we'll see it. Scary, but true. I was like, wow. I mean, Tony Robbins like really broke down some stuff that I was like, man, that's kind of scary. But think about how it applies to your life and to your goals. You know, so let's take this back to what we do. So if you look at how things are set up, we're set up to do what? You know, basically school, government, whatever you want to call it, society trains us, at least in the United States. I know we have people on here from all over, but I've seen this in different countries as well. What are we trained to do? We're trained to go to school, get good grades, get a great job, or maybe go to college, right? We go to college. Why are we going to college? To get a degree so we can get a better job. Never talked about mental health, never talked about happiness, never talked about doing the right thing. We're just talked about go to work, make money. Now, society also teaches do what? Buy a house, get married, finance some cars, have some kids. Well, I mean, in the perfect world, if you see how this works, basically what they're setting up is a huge population of pawns. Now, if you know chess, you know what a pawn is. And a pawn can be the most powerful player on the chessboard if you know how to use them correctly, right? If you ever played chess. Jim, have you ever played chess? Chess player? Yeah? So you understand what I'm saying? I mean, probably if you haven't played chess, you're going to be like, what is he talking about? But basically there's a set of pawns that basically protect the rest of your army, field, whatever. Okay, I'm frozen. Is there? Okay, I'm back. I'm getting like 100 messages come through, chat messages. Let me see if I can cancel some stuff out here, and that might speed up my computer. Because the last thing we want to do is freeze. Oh, wow, that's not what I wanted to see. Looking at all this stuff, Finder. I'm just going to force quit some applications here real quick, guys. iTunes does not need to be running, but it wants to.
I'll just
Chrome
say hi to.
does not.
I'll say hi to Dr. Chris, Doris,
Hello.
and William.
There we go. Click. Okay, we just sped up the computer, so we should be good. So where does this kind of lead to? You're kind of a pawn in the big game, and you're playing this game. So all of a sudden, we're like, okay, I'm not winning anymore, you know. After athletics in school, you kind of get thrown into your work, and now all of a sudden you're just climbing the ladder, but it's Groundhog's Day, right? You climb the ladder to climb the ladder to climb the ladder. Same. So all of a sudden you start looking for variety in life. So most people go to entertainment, right? Because that's society's way of sucking the rest of the money out of your pocket. Outside of paying your normal bills, because you know you usually want someplace to live, and you want the heat or the air conditioner on, and you want telecommunication services, and you want internet, and you want a car and gasoline to be able to move around. But then you have this discretionary amount of money, and most people could use that discretionary amount of money to achieve. But now we have entertainment come in. We have movies and sports and music and all these different varieties to add variety to your life. The newest show that's coming on, the newest movie that's coming out, the newest song, the newest album, the newest concert, and that sucks the rest of the money out. And most people play that game for 40 to 50 years until they're no longer healthy, and then they stop playing the game, and then it's over, and then the cycle repeats if they've had kids and done what they're supposed to do. And they've been running that game for a long time. You can go all the way back and look at kings and queens and castles. There's a real great book. You can read about how power is used in this kind of subject matter, and basically how people have kept control of what's going on for a long, long time. There's called the 50 Laws of Power. I don't know if you've ever heard of that book. I think last name Green wrote it. But, I mean, he goes back and studies these different principles of basically control and power and using it. Now, where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us in a situation where we can actually learn from what's going on, and you can remove yourself from that system if you want to. So you can stop playing chess because we're kind of pieces in a game. A lot of people don't know this, but we're pieces in a game that somebody else set up. We just don't know that the game's going on for most of us. Most of us, like when you learn this stuff and you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and you're like, what in the world? I mean, when I read that, I wanted to burn my school down. I'm not going to do it. I know this is being recorded. Somebody's, you know, all of a sudden the FBI is talking about, Jeff, Mr. Gamble, we have a question for you. I'm like, it wasn't me. I was never there. I wanted to burn the school down. I was so mad that this stuff wasn't taught to us. And I remember actually having a conversation with my mom. I was like, Mom, did you know that like 97% of people are taught, go to school, get good grades? That's what I've been trying to tell you for years. You just won't listen to me. I was like, well, where did you hear that? Well, I was taught it by, you know, your grandmother. Oh, okay, and your grandfather. I was like, okay. Well, thankfully they were still alive, so I actually asked them. I was like, well, where did you guys hear that? And my grandma was like, well, my grandparents taught it to me. And I kind of tracked it all the way back. And what I realized is it stopped working a long time ago, you know. I mean, the whole idea of going to school and making it and being successful, and not to say that there are people who are not successful who do that. It's just the majority aren't. I just wanted to remove myself from that situation. I didn't want to have to show up. I didn't want to have to do this anymore. But here's the problem. If you look at the difference between work and art, most people go to work. There are very few artists that make a great living and have the ability to kind of control their life like somebody who goes to work. And I was just having a conversation, a coaching conversation, with somebody who called me from Facebook. They saw the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show randomly. No idea how they found it. Randomly. We had no friends, no connections. Lives here in Indianapolis, which is really strange. Kind of connected through. Sent me a message. I sent her to Bess. Bess talked to her. Then she talked to somebody else that was related in the club. Then she ended up calling me today, and we had this conversation. And she's like, she's at a certain age where she's like, I need to get something done very quickly. And I said, are you going to have to work 5 years regardless? And she's like, yeah, I mean, based on the numbers, I'm going to have to work 5 years regardless. I said, so you're going to either work 5 years working a job, and at the end you're going to have nothing to show for it, or you can work a job and this, and in 5 years have the job money. And what if you used all this money, paid everything off, and just put it away? What if you never had a plan to take this, to replace this for the first 5 years? What if it was just you're building it just for extra? That's it. And she's like, that would probably be a lot smarter way to do it. And I was like, so another way that my friend said, if I have $50 in this hand and $100 in this hand, which one do you want? And, you know, I've done this in meetings a lot of times with real money. I said, which one do you want? And people are like, oh my God, I want the 100. I said, why not both? The $50, what the $50 represents, the $50 represents paying all your bills. And people are like, and I see this all the time, you know, minimum wage isn't enough to live on. But it was never designed to live on. That wasn't the purpose of minimum wage. Minimum wage is where you start, not where you're supposed to finish. It was just a starting point. Why can't live on my own on minimum wage? Good, you weren't supposed to. You were supposed to develop yourself a little bit more. You were supposed to move up. You weren't supposed to stay there. You know, the reason, and I love Jim Rohn, he's like, the reason the 4th grade desks are so small is because you're not supposed to stay at 4th grade. The same thing is true with dollars. You're supposed to move up. Now, you're not supposed to force up, but at a certain point, if somebody repeats 4th grade a bunch of times, what do we tell them? It's time to move on. So where does that leave us? Work versus art. Well, here's what I know about work. You have a set schedule, a set time. Somebody's created a system. Somebody sat down and wrote out a system, right? They said if everybody shows up at this time, and if everybody does the work this way, and everybody turns things in, and there's like a manual. You know when you first start the job and they go through, hi, today we're going to go through it, and you know, it's like the lady from Monsters, Inc., Waskowski, we got our eye on you. Remember her? Like, that's how, I mean, every single time I started a job in a training, it seems like I have to watch some video, and that lady is the lady. It's her voice. kind of going through the instructions. Today we're going to go through. It's real nasally, and you're like, oh my God, and you have to sit through a day or a week of this crap. And they're explaining out, here's how to do this, here's where to put this piece of paper, here's how to do, here's when you can leave, here's when you can come. And they set out this structure, and you're mad. You're mad. You're like, this is dumb. I should be able to do this any way I want to. Well, what they found out is when left to our own devices, here's what people do. And let me give you an example of exactly what people do. And the same thing is true in network marketing. There was an art teacher, and he was trying to describe the difference between work and art to his students when they first came in and talk to them. This was college level, and it was the first day, graduate level art. And he's like, the difference between work and art. And he's like, I'm going to give an example. There's about 100 people in here. Everybody, here's a blank canvas. Make something amazing. And left the room. 3-hour class. Make something amazing today. Left the room. Out of 100 people, guess how many amazing works of art were there when he got back? Anybody want to guess? Hold up some fingers. And Monica, you win the prize. There's actually 3. Here's the reason why. People sat around and talked and said, well, what do they want us to make? What are we supposed to do? I don't have instructions. I don't know what they're grading us on. I don't know what medium they want. I don't know if it should be color. I don't know if it should be black and white. I don't know if it should be red. I don't know if it should be blue. I don't know if I should use the whole canvas or part of the canvas. So most people did nothing at all. Sound like network marketing, doesn't it? 3 people were like, something amazing. Okay, I have this idea of this painting of the Rocky Mountains and hot air balloons, and they just went to town. Here's the thing. I don't care. They said create something amazing, so I'm going off of what I think's amazing, not off of what everybody else thinks amazing. I'll just create it. 3 people completed a project of some kind. Everybody else sketch doodled. Nobody finished anything. The reason why is there weren't exact instructions sitting in front of somebody. And that's why, to most people, think about this, to most people, network marketing looks like an art project, right? Because there aren't set instructions exactly usually. What most people hear is go out and work really hard, go out and talk to people. So people create excuses. Think about it. They create the same set of excuses for network marketing as they do if somebody says, I want to be a full-time musician. Man, not a lot of people make that. There's a lot of scam artists out there. You have to be careful. People will take your money. Do you know how many people get a guitar and get started and never achieve success, never make a living? How are you going to eat off of that, doing that? Playing bar gigs and playing festivals, there's so many people. It's so hard to get discovered. It's so hard to create a podcast. It's so hard to complete a song. It costs so much money to go to the convention. It costs so much money to go to the recording studio. Does this sound familiar? I want to be an art. But here's the thing. Do people make it in music? Yes. But there really aren't a lot of blueprints, right? Where you can, now there are, but only in the last probably couple decades are there teachers and trainers online where you can just go find, let's face it, no matter what you're trying to do, write a book, create a zoo, build a garden, start a auto repair shop, start an electronics repair shop, start a bee farm. There's probably videos out there. If there's not a video on that, we should create one, Jim. Especially for bees, because I've been reading a lot about them. And the importance of them. I always knew they were important, but I didn't understand exactly how important. But we should start a whole series on how to create your own bee farm. But I'm sure they're out there because I was looking at some of them. The point is, this idea of work, 95% everything's laid out, and all of a sudden you're in network marketing and you don't have an exact instruction plan. So that's what the 10 core was for. It's not just some stuff to follow, but it was kind of like if we could take the instructions from the world of work and hand them to somebody in network marketing, and they'd be like, oh, I've got to do these 10 things. I've got to learn these 10 things and check each one of them off. And watch this. You don't have to be proficient at it like super expert level. You just have to know what they are and get good at them. That's it. Just okay and good. Okay, good, and consistent. How consistent? Think about this. What if you worked your business like you did your job? Think about this. What if you had to? What if the company called and said, hey, as of tomorrow, we're working this like a job, and there's a bunch of people from a bunch of different companies on here. What if tomorrow you had to get up and had to work your business like a job? And they said, look, if you're not putting in 35 hours this week, by the end of Sunday, you're out. Your number's canceled. You're gone in the system. Gone. You're out. You have to put in this much time. And here's basically what you have to follow. And we want to see numbers because it's a job. You're expected to perform every day. Well, can I call in sick for a week? Yeah, if you've been there for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Some jobs you can't even, you can be there 10 years. You call in for a week sick, they're like, yeah, we're going to fire you. They'll find a reason, right? They're not going to intentionally do it, they'll fire you. Imagine if you worked your business really like your job, where you had to show up, and they had certain things you have to do each day. You have to go through all the emails, you have to go through all the calls, because I'm talking about like the mortgage business. We had processing lists, and we had to get all these documents in by a certain time. So imagine if you had to do that in business. Imagine if you had to contact this many people, you had to present this many times, and if you didn't do it, each day you got a black mark, an X. And most companies, you have 3 days where you don't perform in a row, what happens to you? Honestly. Most companies will get rid of you. Right? You might make it a week. Some people, they'd be on like a 90-day, what do they call that? 90-day, not suspension. What am I thinking of? That's what's the word? Yeah.
Probation.
Thank you. 90-day probation. Imagine if network marketing did that to you. How would you perform differently? Most people wouldn't even get started, right? Because they'd be like, I can't commit at that level. And here's the thing. We're not asking anybody on here to commit at that level to start out with. But understand, if you can get to the point where the language, think about the language of work and art. Timing-wise, well, when can I work my job? Well, most jobs are 9 to 5. When can you work your business? Well, whenever. But there are better times, right, Jim? If you try to call everybody and pick up the phone and say, man, I'm excited, and it's 1 in the morning to 4 in the morning, how many people would have you committed? Right? Your business would not succeed really well. But in art, you can kind of work it whenever, and that's what people kind of say this in the meeting. Well, the great thing about your business, you can work it whenever. But what they don't say is you can't work it whenever. You have to work it consistent, right? So there's things that they say to get you in that sound really good. Well, you can work it whenever. Any hours you want. Then they'll talk about, we only need to put in 2 to 5 hours a week. Have you ever seen anyone successful in anything that puts in 2 to 5 hours a week into anything? Not really. Not really. So let's break this down for time. If you want your life to go in the right direction, and you want the structure, but you also want to create variety, the structure is, I'm pretty much doing the same thing, and I'm paying my bills, and there are certain things that attract a large group of people. Would you agree, regardless if you make a little bit of money or a lot of money, if you're a big saver and you have an enormous amount of cash reserve, you're attractive to other people, right? You just are. Certain people, they're kind of like the most dull person in the world, but I will get to know who they are, and they're like, yeah, I save 40% of my income. What is my respect level for this person? Why does it go through the roof? Because I know how hard that is. The same thing is true. When you see somebody that has a crazy life and they're in extreme shape, like beyond just okay, I'm talking about extreme shape where you can see definition in veins and, they're just really, really in shape, you kind of automatically have a certain level of respect for these people. There's a lot of 1% things like that you can do to put yourself in a situation to be attractive. That's the structure, right? That's every day. But how do you create the variety? Variety is created by goals and achievement, by dreams and achievement. Goals, dreams, and achieving. Because if you're always running towards the next goal, you're creating the variety rather than letting the variety come at you. Does this make sense? Because what variety comes at people that makes life exciting? Drama. Something breaks. The car breaks down. That'll create some variety in your life real quick, right? Got to make some phone calls. Tire isn't. Okay, I got to fix the tire. Got to find the money. Got to figure this out. Isn't it funny that if it's the car, we always find a way to find the $500, $1,000, $1,200, but when it comes to doing something for our business that would be successful, we're like, oh, I can't do that. Can't go there. Nope. Happened to me in the beginning too. First decade, I made excuses on everything that came up, why we couldn't, why I shouldn't. But all of a sudden, my car, the seal on the brake seal broke, and that whole compartment busted, and it was like $800-900, and I was able to figure it out in like 2 days. Why? Ultimate focus, and I knew the exact price. When you focus on something and you know the exact price, exactly what you want. Why is it you can focus on a car tire that costs a couple $100, or a car issue that costs a couple $100, or a furnace that may cost a couple $1,000? You can figure that out just like that, but you can't figure out your business. Sometimes it's because we don't know the numbers. If we knew the exact numbers it would take us to get there, all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I can just check off the numbers, right? For instance, getting started right, going through that first 10 people. Once you know it's 10 people, now I can look at that and say, have I really gotten started? What if this was the rule? Until you present to 10 people in 10 days, you've never really gotten started. That's why I started teaching my team. If you haven't presented to 10 people in 10 days, 10 different people, I called my grandma every day. Here's what it is. Here's what it is. Here's what it is. No, different people. They have to be alive. Real people. It's better if they have a job, career, something, but they don't have to, because they might know a lot of people, right? I mean, there's people who are retired that know a ton of people, and you can show it to them too. It's best if they're over the age of 18. If you show it to 12-year-olds, you're probably not going to get the same results. Let's be honest. So it's just a kind of like checking inventory and being honest with who. The better quality of a person we show it to in this 10, the better results we're going to get. But imagine if you really haven't gotten started unless you showed it to 10 people in 10 days. If you really tracked it based on that, I bet we could go through many, many organizations and fix a lot of the problems if that was the rule of getting started. And then the second part is we actually congratulated everybody every week that got started. Right? You put recognition to this, and you've got to come up with the 10 names and phone numbers, and when you presented to them and somebody physically picked up the phone and called and checked accountability, that would change things. Because most of the business is all based on what? It's based on good faith, and it's based on things. But when you start checking this stuff, it brings it to a new level. I needed that kind of accountability because I was an exaggerated, I was super excited, so I'd exaggerate my results in my own head because I wasn't writing it down. I was like, oh, I showed it to 50. I showed it to 50. I know I showed it to 15. Let me write them down. I showed it to John, Rick. Okay, I showed it to 6 people. Why did I think it was 15? Why am I tricking myself thinking I'm doing more than I'm doing? Because I wanted to be included in that group, but I wasn't doing the work. So I started tracking it. So getting started right. Be here a year from now. Being here a year from now, doing what it takes. So watch this. Oh, when they told me this, I wanted to, punch myself in the face. Crawl, walk, run, sprint. Crawl, 15 presentations a month. Walk, 30 presentations a month. Run, 45 presentations. Sprint, all out, crazy, 60 presentations plus. Let's bring it back to crawl. Everybody can crawl. Everybody. Be here a year from now, what it really meant, because I asked this, he's like, it's not just being here a year from now, it's being here a year from now doing everything on the list. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, presentations are on the list, marketing's on the list. What if every single month you tracked all this, you checked off, did I get started right? Yes. Imagine getting started right every single month. You want to show it to at least 15, so you at least have to show it to 10. So, okay, that's a check. I showed it to 15. I'm here a year from now. So I haven't done it a year. Let's just say we do it in the month of November. Let's just use November as the. So if I had gotten started right, I'd showed it to 10 people this month. I got to make a check. Be here a year from now, I only got to make that check if I also had shown it to 15 people. Personal development. Did I do my personal development every single day? That's a check, right? Did I market today? Whether it's a personal quote, or it's a video presentation, or it's a physical presentation, or I dropped off a business card, or I mailed somebody a product to look at, or I sent somebody a video, or whatever, however you marketed today, you did something you could check off. I marketed to somebody. Present daily. Did I present today? Or if I made a goal of crawling, that's 15 presentations. That's a minimum. That's the minimum to basically be here a year from now and check it off, is I did my 15, where am I at for the month? I attended all the presentations, I attended all the trainings, I attended whatever the regional is. I have my ticket, so this was my rule. If there was an event coming and I knew about it and they had already released tickets, I didn't get to check it off unless I had already bought my ticket. Am I committed or am I not? Well, I get everything at the last minute. That's why your business is suffering, because people who know you know that you wait till the last minute to do everything, and they're watching you. This is not, they're not guessing, they're watching you. They know that you do everything at the last minute. The minute you start, watch this, the physical change will also be an emotional change, will also be a social change. They'll start seeing it. Wow, he never used to do things right away up front. Now all of a sudden he's doing things right away up front. That's interesting. I need to follow this. I need to find out what he's doing. Attend conventions. So I didn't get to check it off unless I had a ticket. If there was a regional, I had to have a ticket. If there was a convention, I had to have the ticket up front, or I didn't get to check it off for the month. And then did I create a map? Did I make a list of all this and check each one off as I completed it? Being here a year from now really meant that you were able to check all these off 12 months in a row. If you missed a month, you didn't miss a month. You started all over again for 12. He's like, what's amazing is, if you really want to see your business take off, if you have all of this checked off for 6 months in a row, watch, consistency and persistency. If you have it all checked off for 6 months, your business will go like this. And at the last second, it's going to go straight up. If you put 2 of those 6-month things back to back, you will be somebody in your company. And what I mean by somebody is people will start to know who you are. 1 6-month, 1 90-day run, kind of cool. 6 months, consistency, people start to know. 1 year in, people will know who you are. You've shown up to everything. You bought your ticket early. Your upline will notice. They'll be like, who is this person in Colorado? Who is this person in Florida? Who is this person in Washington? Who is this person in Calgary? They will remember. Who is this person in Kansas in a blizzard doing the work? They will, here's the thing, they will find you. Where there is smoke, usually there is fire. And in the business, you're constantly looking for that sign. The leadership is. The leadership's watching the numbers and they're looking for that sign. Wow, this person's been to everything. Their commitment level's through the roof. And here's the thing, it doesn't just work with the upline, it'll work with the outside group. People will start to notice your leadership is changing. You are becoming personally accountable. Accountable, responsible, committed. People don't like, and I hate to say it this way, because it's kind of mean, people will not follow someone who's not committed. Why would they? Doesn't that make sense? The more committed you are, the easier it is to follow you. If they think, next week Jeff's going to be doing, he's going to be selling popcorn. He's really not going to do this. Here's the number one thing I get. The number one thing I've heard in the last 90 days, man, you and Bess are really committed to doing that show. Yeah. Considering it, half of all the lessons are about commitment, that would kind of be a good idea, wouldn't it? And they kind of laugh. And they're like, no, I'm serious. Like, every day I turn it on. I was like, well, that's because we do it Monday through Friday. And I was like, we also do 2 extra things. And they're like, the lady today said something really cool. She's like, I just can't believe you guys do that for free. And I said, so it makes kind of a big impact, doesn't it? She's like, yeah, I mean, it totally does. She's like, I said, if you ran into anybody that had questions and it fit what we were doing, would you refer? She's like, without a doubt, no question. She hasn't spent $1 yet. She's like, I would refer. I said, so you haven't even spent $1 with us yet, and you'll already refer us. I said, that is worth more to me than anything I can buy, any advertising. Because I was talking about last night, I spent maybe 2-3 hours with these friends, and one of them's a doctor, chiropractor, naturopath, and the other one is an internet marketer. Like, he makes his entire living just doing internet marketing and SEO and building websites for people. And we spent this time talking about marketing and the amount of money that's spent on marketing and what it's worth. And I will tell you, out of all of the different stuff we talked about, all the different platforms, all the different apps that are out there, and the different niche things to do to bring traffic to businesses, that show that we do is more powerful. Because of what? Because of the commitment level. People just see that as, wow, you know, that takes a tremendous amount of focus every day. So be here a year from now, professional development. We've talked about the rest of it. So that's how to track it. That's what the map is about. Every single month, figure out what you're going to do. Here's the first thing I focused on. Really the first 2 things I focused on. Because I had a hard time doing it all. The first thing I focused on, honestly, was just getting to the point to present 15 times in a month. Like, I started tracking, I started writing it at the beginning of my notebook, and I'm like, until I can do this, I can't even focus on the rest of this. I mean, I showed up to everything. That was probably the only thing I did well in the beginning. I showed up to everything. Because I was just so excited to be around people who were excited. Because most of the people in my life were not excited. Well, they were 2 things. They weren't excited, and they weren't positive. If they were excited because they were mad at me because of something I did. My mom told me to disappear. I was gone for 2 days. The police came looking. They were excited to find me. I was not excited to be found. And I was like, I followed your directions. You said disappear. I did. You couldn't find me. You had to call the police. I won. Yeah, I did win. I won being grounded for the next month. That's what I won. You know, when you're 13 or 14. I was an extreme smart aleck. So I always challenged the system. Like, I had to make sure and prove to me that it worked and prove to me it didn't work. And that's why some of the lessons, you know, people are like, man, your storage is... I was like, because I spent all the money, I did it all wrong. I did all of this wrong. And in some cases, I've spent more money screwing it up than you guys would ever want to... Some people, more than most people, want to make. I've spent on leads. I mean, I had a $3,000 a month lead program at one point that I thought was going to be awesome. That did not work out. But it wasn't quite as good as my friend that spent $11,000 on billboards and never got a call. And one person's like, oh, yeah, there's this really ugly guy on this billboard that, you know, kind of sounded like that motto. He's like, yeah, that was me. So, hi, Kitty. Monica's cat's joining us. So, where are we at? Getting started right now. I am going to turn this over to Bess at this point and get some of her insight on, you know, making an action plan, doing the right things, and then we'll come back and we'll finish with what I was going to go over first. Bess, you are unmuted, maybe? No?
Okay, I'm ready now.
There you are.
Okay. Thank you. That was such a nice overview and a summary of all the 10 core from the map perspective. Thank you so much. And lots of great tips, lots of notes I took. Would like to talk about 2 main things. And one is how to do a challenge, because that can be part of the strategy that you may want to gather. Look at the time of year this is. Christmas is a time, you know, in the fall, Jeff, I learned from Jeff that 75 to 80% of network marketers go inactive the last quarter of the year. Mistake. It's a very good time for talking with people about Christmas gifts, people that might want your products, services, people that will need to earn money for Christmas or after Christmas might need to pay off their credit cards. remember that the first of the year is a very good time to start new things like a business. So you can be talking with people right now, and also you see people at the holidays that you don't usually maybe run into the rest of the year. I know just a few days ago I spent time with my cousins that I see once a year. They come into town, big family, we play together with kids and everything, and so they all come into town. 3 of them live here, but like 6 of them don't. They live in other states, so they all come in, make a commitment together. Our family, there's 4 of us siblings, go and visit theirs, so there was 9 of them. So we get to go there and see their kids and their kids, and this is just once a year. So it's like that a lot of the times at the holidays. So this is the time to talk with people. You can even use the favor technique. You can listen to what they're up to. And naturally, they're going to ask you what you're doing now, too. So what's new with you? And so you can say, well, actually, I am involved in a new business, or I'm in a new commitment to my business, and I wonder if you could do me a favor and learn what I'm doing. Maybe you know somebody you could refer to me that you know who could use this or use another stream of income. So that's a time to share. If it's not appropriate there at the event, you can be in touch with them later. You can say, well, I remember that you spoke about this and that. I may have an idea. So be in touch with the people. Don't just take a break and forget about the things that people need to be home with their kids, to have a better retirement, to pay off loans, to get out of a bad job. Everybody, that covers about 95% of people out there. So if you walk in any given room or any party or a family reunion or anything, probably 95% of the people in this room are going to fit one of those categories and who actually need to hear about what you have, even if it's just an option. So even if even if it's not for them, they may know people, because everybody knows a few hundred people. So using that favor technique at this time is very good and very powerful. You might consider doing a challenge, especially after the first of the year, but you can get ready for it now. There's just about another month left here in the year. So most people who do challenges do it after the first of the year because the holidays are past, it's a fresh start, they want to give their year a good kickoff. So I have some tips about if you want to plan now to do a challenge after the first of the year. I recommend working on your personal growth now, not when you're ready to do your challenge and launch it. Read the personal growth books now, see what blocks are in your mind, what negative beliefs, what fears are there, and take care of those before you begin to do your 30, 60, or 90-day challenge, or whatever that you decide to do. So take care of your mindset now. I have actually a quiz. Maybe I'll put that in the emails or in the club Facebook group. The top 10 mental blocks to success that I've noticed in myself, students, and clients over the many years. You can take a look at this quiz, see which ones might be stumbling blocks for you. See, I wonder if I have it. No. Well, anyway, they're mostly things like I am afraid to talk about money. I'm afraid to ask for the sale. I'm scared to have a better life and more success than my parents or than my friends because I might lose their love. I don't deserve success. I think it's too hard. I think it'll take too long. I don't think I have the money to do it. I don't think I have the time to do it or the support to do it. So this is all the negative thinking and beliefs and fears and discouragements that can come up. Take a look at these. See which ones you need to clear out. If you do, if you want help, Jeff and I help people to clear these out. I am a body-mind therapist. I've been helping people with these for 30 years to clear out stuff. Often we go back to childhood and say, well, where did this come from in childhood? And from what role model did you see this? If you don't take a look at it, it sabotages you, and it is what is in your mind when you say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll call people tomorrow. Oh, look, the cat litter needs changing, so I can't do it today, or this or that. You know, there's many reasons that we procrastinate and put things off. Take a look. If you do, take a look. What's going on right now? What are my feelings and what are my beliefs under that? And know that those can all be changed, you guys. Nobody's stuck. So this is a very good time to do that. I could go real deep into that, but you could catch some of my videos and tools that I have on my Facebook page to learn more about that. So this is a good time before the first of the year, if you plan to do a challenge, to do two things. Work on that mindset and then upgrade your skills, and which is what we're doing in here, which is finding people to talk to, inviting and presenting, follow-up, closing, getting them started right, and getting them to events. Exactly what we cover over all of these 10 core. Take a look and see what's your weakest one. Pull up the video on that and watch the replays on that. See where your weakest link is in your chain. A chain is only as strong as your weakest link. Number 2, write down your game plan, what you want to do during your 30, 60, or 90-day challenge. It should always lead to an event, like a company convention. Take the next big one coming up and use your challenge to recruit people and get your team to get people all to the event. You could say, let's all bring 5 people to the next company convention. Number 3, get your mission statement. For example, this is what you would say to your team and all to your new recruits when you get them into your challenge. Let's all lock arms and help people get out of debt, or whatever that you're, help people have financial freedom, or be able to leave their job when they want to. Think of your mission statement, your biggest motivating factor that you can run with like a battle cry. And say this to your team. Say this to your new recruits. This is what we're all going to do. This is what we're doing during this run. Your battle cry. Get your 10-minute presentation down. Jeff has really good instructions on that, the video that's in your emails. He did a great little 10-minute talk on that, how to write your 10-minute presentation, as well as look in your Always Get a Yes book, which is always in every email too. So it contains those 5 components of the information about your company, the need, the product, the comp plan, and the timing. It should have all those, about 3 to 6 bullet points about each of those things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5, get your tools ready. If you're doing a challenge, get all of your links that you need, but especially your 3-way callers. Line maybe, if you're doing a real serious challenge, line up maybe 3 3-way callers of your upline. Can't find any, then you can go to your cross line. You can do that for each other. We have instructions on that too. 6, clear your schedule. Choose the right time to do your challenge. So this is part of the planning, right? The action planning. Look ahead to next year and choose which 30, 60, or 90 days are going to be the most free for you. Not when you're going to a wedding or getting married yourself or moving, other important life events. See which is the most clear, and then choose that time, and then see what you can clear out of that. See what you can turn over, delegate, ask your family support. Can we move this event? Can you help with some of my chores or alleviate that so I can do this for the family? So you choose the best time, move events that you can. You can notify people ahead of time. I know that we usually get together here, but I'm going to be doing this run. I'm not going to be able to come and join you guys this year. Or whatever that you need to clear out. Notify people, negotiate with them. Ask your families, of course, negotiate with your family to do this challenge, and negotiate for their support, for the delegation, for the preparing for that. See who can maybe mow the lawn instead of you, or even hire it out. See who can, enlist the kids as help. to do laundry, shopping, food preparation, house cleaning. Imagine that the whole family gets to pitch in and work so that one or more of the parents can do the challenge so that the family can have good things. I know a lady whose kids all pitched in to help her so that they would all go to Disneyland when it was all over. They all were working toward this together. So the older kids would help with the younger kids, and they would all work together. Gather your call list. If you're doing a full 30-day challenge of aiming to recruit 20 recruits, 20 new distributors in 30 days, then you'll need about 500 people to call, text. So bring that up in your, I have memory joggers available, people that you know. Look on your phone, look on your Facebook lists, your friends list, old high school friends, a lot of people. Get a person for accountability and support, whether it's your upline, crossline, a coach like Jeff or me, to troubleshoot the blocks that always do come up during a challenge. They always do. Plan for interruptions. Somebody's going to get sick, the pet needs surgery, a parent gets sick, a kid breaks an arm. The unexpected will come up, so plan that into your timeline. Try to get your work done ahead of time if you can. Typically, a 30-day challenge looks like 100 presentations in the first 10 days. To do that, often you need to contact 5 times that. I like to use the 5 times rule myself. You contact, if you want to do 10 presentations a day for 10 days, contact 500 people to arrange 100 presentations. Then the next 10 days, you're following up. The next 10 days, you're signing them up and getting them started right. But plan in for interruptions in there. See if you can work on weekends and evenings. See if the other spouse can take care of the kids, spell you, take them to the park, give you that alone time that you need. Yeah, that's for challenges. I would like to say a word about leaders, too. Richard Brooks wrote a very nice article about leadership that I like to let you kind of consider. He says, instead of, when you're making your plans, instead of focusing on the comp plan and income levels and how much money you can make and the ranks, instead of setting your goals and your planning along that line, he said, translate that income that you would like to make into how many leaders that it would take to get that. And I really like that, because otherwise you do a temporary stretch and you have an empty title without the leaders to sustain it. When you focus on the leaders, you have something solid. And John Maxwell says this all the time too, that you want to replicate, duplicate, create leaders who don't need you anymore so that your organization runs on its own and leaves a legacy. So it's the leaders more than the comp plan, the focus and the ranks. He says a leader in network marketing has a clear vision of what they intend to accomplish. They've created a project and specific plan to attain it. They are self-motivated by their vision and maintain their enthusiasm, persistence, attitude, and actions, and they produce their intended results. So when you are looking for people and growing people and recruiting people, build into your plan these 4 things. He said, unless you have these 4 things, you don't really have a leader or an organization. That's a clear vision. Just think of how this would feel. Just imagine people like this on your team, a clear vision of what they intend to accomplish, created a project and a specific plan to attain it, are self-motivated by that vision and maintain their enthusiasm, persistence, attitude, and actions, and they produce their intended results. He has about 30,000 distributors at the time of this article anyway, and he likes to express his goal in terms of leaders. And he said, a leader is someone who can take the licks and keep on ticking. Tony Robbins also concurs with all this too. He says, true leaders don't create followers, they create other leaders. So instead of focusing how much money you want to earn, focus on how many leaders it would take to make that. I thought that was pretty good. And every action you do with your team, ask, will this make them dependent or independent of you? Of course, you want to duplicate. Tom Chenault says, bringing leaders into your company is hard. Developing them is harder. Keeping them is the hardest. How do you create that residual income you can count on over the long haul? Develop leaders. Then earn and keep their loyalty. I thought I'd pass that on as part of the planning. I think time management and stress management could fall into here, but I'll turn it back over to you then, Jeff, at this point.
Okay. So, you know, Bess just talked about time management. This is really funny. My Jim Rohn talks about this. I think it's funny. He's like, you can't manage time. He's like, you can prioritize, but you can't manage it. He's like, if you can really manage time and tell time to get back over there, he's like, they'll try to lock you up, which I thought was kind of funny. But you can prioritize it, and I think that's exactly what Bess was talking about. And we've talked about time blocking and how we all wish we had more time. But as Jim Rohn talks, he's like, you can't get any more time. You only have the amount, so you have to prioritize and say, what's the most important thing? And there's two things. A, where are you going? Where do you want to end up? Because there is the most important thing to do right now, and then there's the most important thing to do right now to get to where you want to go, right? So you kind of have to figure that out of how to add things in that make the most sense. And then the book, Eat That Frog, by Brian Tracy, Eat That Frog, he basically states that if you had to eat a frog every day and it was disgusting and awful and painful and everything, you'd want to do it first and get it out of the way before you do everything else. So the idea is John Maxwell talked about this. He goes, you want to do your most profitable activity at whatever the peak time of your energy is, or whatever the peak moment that it's supposed to happen, right? So if the peak moment to get a hold of people is from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, that's how you have to set things up. So make sure that at your job you don't wear yourself out to the point where 5 to 9, when you can make something happen in business, you don't wear yourself out. That's your time every day to build your business. If you're calling leads and doing the West Coast, watch this. You can extend that time. You know, certain people have certain activities, kids, dinner, church, synagogue, mosque, whatever you're involved in. You have this certain time after work where you might have a bunch of things to do. And people are like, I can't do the business. They're like, I can't do the business because during that time I have this going on. I was like, well, is it possible for you to stay up a couple extra hours? And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, if you could stay up from 9 to 10 or even to 11 o'clock and then go to sleep, what do you normally do between 9 and 11? Most people are like, watch TV. I'm like, you're watching Lost? Yeah, I'm watching reruns of Lost with the fat guy that's been on an island for 4 years that's still fat. I'm like, come on. I'm like, there's a girl on there that has been on an island for 4 years that does not have a tan. How did that happen? And finally they found out, you know, she was in the shade and the other guy was eating candy bars that he found on a boat. I'm like, really? That's how you're spending your time. You're spending your time entertaining yourself with mindless activity. And it's actually, I can't remember we were watching a show one time, and at the very end, it was Mindless Entertainment was actually the name of the production company putting it on, Mindless Entertainment. And he's like, man, I've never heard something so appropriate in my life. So with that being said, most of us entertain ourselves rather than educate ourselves and spend that time. So do you have the ability to, do you realize you could buy leads specifically in a different time zone, and then your 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock actually becomes 9 o'clock to midnight? And you can build your business on the coast. So this is kind of studying the industry. If you study the industry, network marketing ends up 60% of all production comes out of 4 states. If the company's located in the United States, 60, sometimes 70% of production comes out of 4 states. Anybody want to guess what those 4 states are? If you have a pen and a piece of paper, I'll give them to you. Now, take a wild guess. Now, I'm going to name the states, and then you do the math. Florida, Texas, California, New York. Those 4 states. Now, what do those 4 states have in common? People like oceans. I'm like, okay, kind of, yeah. They're big. I'm like, yeah, geographically. They all have giant populations. That's key. The other thing is they're all expensive to live in the cities, right? They're expensive to live in the cities. Miami, New York, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, some parts of San Antonio, some parts of Austin, California, pretty much top to bottom. Expensive. So what ends up happening is you also, and if you don't know this, they also have very mixed populations. A lot of people from other countries. And if you go off the statistic that if you weren't born in the United States but are a citizen here, you have a 4 times greater chance of becoming a millionaire in this country than if you were born in this country. Yeah, I know. Monica just looked up like, what in the world? Yeah, that's actually true. You have a 4 times greater chance of becoming a millionaire in the United States if you were not physically born in the United States. And the reason being is if you ever read the book, The Millionaire Next Door, they actually go into detail about why this is. They said, the first generation who gets here basically, teaches they struggle and try to figure it out and make enough money. And usually what they'll do is they'll start a business. Their kids will take over that business and build it to $1 million plus. And then what they teach their kids is don't do what we did. We had to struggle. We had to work hard. You need to go to school and become a professional. So that way we make your life easier. And typically the third generation is the generation that has all the drug problems, suicide problems, and every other problem. I mean, part of it is if you think about it, your parents are asking you to do the exact opposite of what they did. That's a little bit of a conflict, right? Because the argument exists, well, if we live in a nice neighborhood, nice house and everything, why would you want me to go do something directly different than what got you to what you did to get here? Because that's what, watch this, that's how quickly society and that image of becoming a pawn takes over. It takes about 3 generations. So, in the book it says the family that gets here struggles to make money. The family that takes it over basically builds money. The next generation maintains it, and the 4th generation wipes it out and spends it. It's gone in 4 generations by statistics. It only takes 1 generation of basically living through our system to basically ruin a lot of the core values that people bring. It's kind of interesting. And that's across the board. I mean, if The Millionaire Next Door, they studied this over like a 25-year time frame. It's a really interesting book when you read by statistic. So it's really hard to keep some of these principles and keep it away. A lot of it has to do with what you plug into, your entertainment, these stupid devices. There's actually a new pair of glasses. I just saw this. There's a new pair of glasses, Bess, you'd like this, that you can buy when you're in a restaurant. It actually blacks out all the LCD screens. You cannot see them at all. There's no programming going on at all. I was like, man, can I get that for the gas station pumps? I actually wanted to punch one of the gas station pumps the other day, but I realized it was kind of some really hard glass. I was like, can I turn off this advertisement while I go to pump my gas? So I put it in my headphones instead. I was listening to Grant Cardone, which was much better than the advertisement that I was listening to. But they're trying to get to you no matter where you go. So if you want to control what's going on, you want to build a different life outside of the pattern, because they have the pattern pretty well set up. I mean, if you ask most people, I was like, have you ever heard, just go around and ask people, hey, have you ever heard go to school, get good grades? Most of the time you can stop talking and they'll finish the sentence. Oh, yeah, I've heard that. Well, where did you hear that? Just ask people, where did you hear that from? So here's David Bird's vision. He said, if you want to build the life you want, the life of an artist, the life of a business owner, because a business owner and an artist are very, very similar in a lot of ways. Business is art. There's a science to it, and there's an art to it. The science is the exact structure and words to use, and the art of it is the timing and enthusiasm needed. Just like art, right? The performance. So it starts with, and this is just a list of 12 things. So if you want to write down 12 things, this is the list of 12 things. This is actually what I'm going to teach. This is one of the things I'm going to teach at Free Enterprise. If you want to launch yourself in your business, this is one of the things we're going to teach. And it's a structure to go through. David Bird taught us this. I restructured it to make it simple. I was talking about this at the beginning of this class when we were going over. He kind of taught to people who are already at $250,000 to $500,000 a year. I know the average person isn't at that level and hasn't dealt with that much stuff and hasn't been through those classes. So I kind of made it more bite-sized. I actually ran some of this by him, and he's like, that's really... Actually, he has this Southern Texas. That's really good, Jeff. I might have to add that. So I was like, wow, that's kind of a compliment. I was like, I didn't expect to give him anything. But I also think it was kind of cool. He's like, Jeff, you can learn from anybody. And I was like, wow, I need to humble myself a lot and get off the phone. So the number one is make a lifetime dreams list. You need to create a lifetime dream list. Anything and everything you've ever wanted. Another way to put it is create your John Goddard list. Somebody's going to ask me how to spell it. I believe it's G-O-D-D-A-R-D, but don't quote me on that. John Goddard. Go read about him. It's amazing. Like, if you read about him, he wrote down at like age 13 or 14, this guy basically did this presentation at school and told him about all these goals, and he wrote down all these goals, like 127 things that he wanted to accomplish. I mean, and his list is outrageous. Like, it's more outrageous than anything. Like, I sat for hours thinking up stuff, and then I would go back and read his, and I was like, I didn't even come close. Like, he's like, I want to climb every major mountain top in the world. I want to discover a new species of animal. I want to discover a new language on the planet and a new, tribe. I want to walk through the Amazon. I want to see all the deserts. I want to visit every major city in America, and I want to every major country in the world. I want to take pictures and make sure they're in the Smithsonian and what's the other magazine? National Geographic. So he wanted to be a published author, write a book, and then he had a whole list of instruments he wanted to master over a lifetime. Out of his list of 127 things, he accomplished like 113 or 114 before he died. He also contracted malaria and a bunch of other things because he was in a bunch of places that had weird stuff. So I'm not saying it was like the ideal life to live. He had like 6 wives. So, it was rough on relationships. I'm not saying that's to that extreme. But it's a really good list just to expand your horizon. Don't expand it. You don't have to expand it as far as he did. But that's to start out with. You want that list. Now, I realized, and I did this in a seminar many times, I said, okay, I want you to make a list of about 100 things because you at least want 100 things on this list. Let's go. What number do you think people got to before they, quit? Yeah, just beyond 5. A little bit beyond that. Most people were stuck around 25 or 30. And I said, so you've been alive, I had friends in the room. I was like, so, John, you've been alive for 38 years, and you can only come up with 25 things out of all the things in the world right now. Out of the, the IKEA catalog and the Sears catalog and Amazon.com, you can only come up with a list of 25 things you actually want to do, achieve, and I realized the reason most of us can't think of enough stuff is because we don't really think like that. So I was kind of thinking about this one day, and I restructured it, and I started creating top 10 lists of different categories. So I started out just off the top of my head. I said, well, faith, spirituality, and philanthropy. That's just one category. I said, let's link those 3 things together. That would be the first list. What if we created a top 10 list of anything spiritual, anything, and if some people are like against the word spiritual and they're like, no, I'm Christian, or no, I'm, Jewish. That's fine. I'm not trying to tell you what to do or what to think or what to be. I'm just saying this is how I categorized it so it was easier to teach. Spirituality, faith, philanthropy. It was a bunch of categories of F's originally. So it was faith, spirituality, philanthropy. That was the first category. Second category was family and relationships. This includes spouse, significant other, kids, grandparents, whatever. I was like, what if I created a top 10 list of everything that I wanted to do with my family? Or not do. Because there's some family you might not want to do anything with. Some people are like, I don't even like my family. I want a new one. And if you make enough money, I'm pretty sure you can. I mean, there's a bunch of people out there who need family, like real friends, right? So that's second is family relationships. Third was finance. Fourth is business or career. Now, the reason that I separated those two is because, like, finances, I want to save this amount of money. I want to give this amount of money. I want to invest in these certain things. Finances, you know, by the end of my life, I want to be able to do these things financially or, you know, help here. I mean, there was a lot, like, when I really started looking at this, finance and business were really two separate things. And then I looked on Darren Hardy, and I looked on Jim Rohn, and I started studying Tony Robbins' chart, and everybody kind of had a little different way. But the bigger dreamer usually separated the two from what I looked at when I realized this. So you have faith, you have family, you have finance, you have business. The fifth is fitness and health, which are obviously two separate things. And, you know, I have on my list that I wanted to weigh a certain amount and, you know, have a certain body fat percentage. I wanted to be able to lift a certain amount. I wanted to be at a certain flexibility. Like, I've always wanted to be able to do, because of martial arts and yoga and different things, I've always wanted to be able to do the Chinese and American splits, you know, to be that flexible. I am not even anywhere near that. Like 10-man flexible right now. Try to stretch that far, break a leg off. But that's the goal. I wanted to, you know, be able to run a certain distance. I wanted to be able to accomplish, you know, something in martial arts. And then there was the health side, to be able to eat. You know, I had on there 80% organic. Bess kind of ran around with us. 80% organic, 20%, you know. I have like a varying, you know, chart of what I can do and not do. We ended up going to Cheesecake Factory last night. A friend of ours had never been, and the lady was trying to promote all these cheesecakes. We got carrot cake, and then I found out that the carrot cake's pretty awful for you too, but it tasted good. I was justifying it. I was like, this has carrots in it. How could it be bad? She's like, that pound of cream cheese on top. I'm like, don't even tell me. But it was amazing. Like, their carrot cake is amazing. It's not the best one I've ever had, but second best. And if you ever, you know, if there was a hole in your car or you needed to build a boat, if you let that cake sit long enough, I'm pretty sure you could build a boat out of it. It was that thick. So, what we just hit 5, right? Faith, family, faith, family, finance, business, fitness. Next is friends, relationships. Let me pull it up here. Is this for him? Training stuff. Oh, we're pretty close, yeah. So friends also was like people that you want to meet. So the friends you have are people you want to meet and become friends with. Like influencers. I'll just give you kind of an example of this. And I put this down, instead of friendship and what I wanted to do with friends, that's what it turned into. But when I first started, I really didn't have any friends, so it wasn't even worth listing. I was like, oh, great, I'm going to list 2 people. That's awesome. So I made a different list. I was like, people to meet and influencers to meet. Tony Robbins, Eric Worre, Gary Vaynerchuk, John Maxwell, which kind of I got to in time. Robert Kiyosaki I was able to meet. Dave and Dave were part of this one certain company. I was able to meet both of them. Vic Sterkisek I was able to meet. GSP Anderson Silva, Jim Rohn was on this list at one point. Obviously, he passed away, so it was kind of crazy. I like created the list, got to hear Jim Rohn live, and then he passed away like a day later. And it really gave me perspective. I was like, so if you don't go after your goal, you might not be able to ever achieve that. Well, I mean, eventually you'll be able to meet everybody, but that's just what I believe. So, Will Smith, Nick Bajoy, I can't even pronounce his last name, but most of you know who I'm talking about. No arms, no legs, grew up Australian, freaking hilarious guy, amazing. He actually is now working directly with John Maxwell, and I got to meet him when I went down to my first John Maxwell event. So it was really weird. I was like, this is really weird. I put this on my list, and those two guys ended up working together, and I got to meet them both at the same time. I was like, well, that's pretty convenient. It's like I should have had some other people on this list. So, friends, the next one I originally had as fun, but I changed to this. Books, classes, seminars. This one is all about education. So it's really fun and education. That's what the category is now, fun and education, is what do you want to do, learn, go to. So some of the things on my list were like attend Eric Worre's boot camp, attend Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny, attend landmark forums, read the book Leadership of Attila the Hun, read through the book Art of War. Some of these I've already done. There's another book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari that somebody told me about, actually a mentor of mine. I wanted to read that. Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist, I ended up reading. The Millionaire Messenger, I ended up reading. So this list I've really got to change. I've got a bunch of books now. Second Chance, Sell or Be Sold, The 10X, Crushing It, The Way of the Wolf, Be Obsessed. These are just some of the new books that I have. There's probably a list of a dozen books. So I want to go through those books, watch this, by first quarter this next year. So like 3 a month, which is like a ridiculous pace because I'm also going through Grant Cardone's Cardone University. It's like a sales training. I didn't know you could get certificates for it when I ordered it, but there's actually national certificates now that you can say, hey, I've been through this training course. It's good stuff. The next one is entertainment, shows, theater, concerts, or artists to me. I have a bunch of techno people on here that I wanted to meet, and I'm just realizing I've seen most of them. Deadmau5, Tiesto. John Mayer I still haven't seen live, but I want to. He's a guitarist, singer. I want to go to all of the current Cirque du Soleil. Normally, if you go to Vegas, I was like, I need to spend like 2 weeks in Vegas just to go to all those shows. And you need about $150 per show per person, is what I'm told, to have the right seats to see everything. Want to go see the Blue Man Group, which I heard is really, really cool. I've seen them online. It's freaking hysterical. I wanted to see Cats on Broadway because I've seen some of the big Broadway plays. Like I've seen Phantom, and I've seen Miss Saigon, and I've seen Les Mis a couple times. But I want to see Cats. I've never seen that. That was really cool. And there's another one that just came out, Wicked. I've heard Wicked's really good. Stomp. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's another musical. Ron White, comedian. Rodney Carrington, comedian. Cat Williams, Kevin Hart. I wanted to see those guys live because I realized these guys are massive influencers. I'll probably need to like detox some of the language out of me before I come back on and teach any of their classes because I tend to like, as soon as I hear it, I'll start repeating stuff that they said, and some of them are really, really bad. Number 9 is travel. And this list is outrageous. Like, people are like, you only can list 10? I'm like, you can list as many as you want. The objective is to get to 100. You might not have as many in some lists, but like by splitting it up in top 10 lists, and this is what I was referring to David Byrd, I said, the way what we think in categories, right? That's how we think, you know, that's why the grocery store is split up into categories, so that way you remember which section to go to. And David Byrd's like, you know, you're right. I said, so if you split up the dreams list into these 10 categories, then people will instantly be able to list 10 things or more, and now you can create that 100th list, and you don't have to sit there for 45 minutes like you do reading all this stuff off. And he's like, that's really, he's like, Jeff, I think I might use this. I'm like, okay, cool. So travel, like I wanted to go back to Brazil, but I really wanted to like travel around Rio de Janeiro, and I want to go to the far south because Florianopolis and places in the far south where the Argentina Gauchos kind of migrated to, there are a lot of beef and cattle farms down there, and it's like the meat in Brazil is out of this world good because they don't use all the same stuff, hormones. I won't get into all that, but you know, there's different rules. Mount Fuji, to be able to climb Mount Fuji, it's like if you're Japanese, it's one of the cultural things that is taught that like you're supposed to make this trek up Mount Fuji, but you're supposed to do it at a certain time, and I didn't know this. You're supposed to do it like you actually start the climb at like 2 in the morning, which would work out really well for me because I'm usually up, but it's the other side of the world. But you start the climb at 2 in the morning, and you're supposed to get to the top before the sun. And the reason why is it's cloud covered. So if you get to the top is actually beyond the clouds, above the clouds. And what you actually get to do is you get to watch the sun rise out of, it looks like it's coming out of the ground. It comes out of the clouds, and basically it starts, they said the color changes. You'll never see anything like it. The color all the way around the mountain changes as the sun gets closer to break through, and then it breaks through, and obviously, you know, it's like the best time ever. But it's also, I can't remember the elevation, if it's like 9,000, 11,000 feet. It's at a 14 or 18 degree angle, so it's not like straight up or anything like Kilimanjaro, which is another really horrible like climb. Very hard because the top, I think it's like the top 2,000 feet is all ash, so your feet sink in. So not only are you starting to have oxygen deprivation, but also it's like your legs wear out, so there's a lot of people who pass out and can't make it. But Kilimanjaro, or Mount Fuji's not that bad. My friend tried to do it, and he's like, here's an 80-year-old lady who does it like every month passing me. With a cane, no less. He said there were 2 old ladies with a cane. He's like, I wanted to beat both of them as they came by so fast. Thailand, I was just talking to somebody about Thailand. A friend of mine's been there like 4 times. He said it's the most amazing, diverse place in the world. He's like, you have this giant, super modern city, and then you have elephants walking down the street, which is kind of cool. He's all like, you can also get an hour massage for $6. So, like cost-wise, you can just do a lot of things. The food's amazing. The culture is like the most friendly people in the world. Costa Rica. And it's really funny because I actually have on my list, Bess, and this is kind of entertaining. I have on my list that I wanted to go to Australia, but I wanted to go and actually know somebody. So I've been talking to Deborah about workouts, and we kind of know some of the same, like famous people in the workout industry. She's actually working out with one of the ladies, and we were talking about techniques the other night, and she's like, and specifically, I wanted to go to the Gold Coast. So that's where she lives. And she's like, oh, you can come out anytime you want. You know, she's like, just tell us. She's like, we've got a place. You can stay. People camp out at our place. We're right on the water. I was like, well, that's pretty convenient. I want to go to England, and there's certain football, soccer in America, stadiums that I want to go to, and I want to see certain people play. Barcelona. And then I want to go to Mexico because that's what my family's like. My family on my dad's side is actually from outside of Guadalajara, Mexico. So I've been to Mexico. I've been to Cancun, which really isn't Mexico. It's kind of like Americanized Mexico. But I've been to mainland, and it was very different. And I've been to Chichen Itza, which was kind of cool. But it was very touristy. I had a better time when I just went off on our own. China was a trip. Singapore, Dubai. And it's really funny, I had Israel down, and then I ended up in an Israeli company, and now I know a bunch of people who live there. So that worked out really well. The last thing on the list was usually the first thing that people started with. And I made it the last thing because when you start making money, and I learned this from people who made a lot more money than I did. When I started making money, material things became less valuable to me. Like in the beginning, they were really valuable because I was like, if this breaks, I don't have the money to fix it. When you can buy a TV and if it breaks, you can just get another one. They just become less valuable. Like these things, they're tangible, but I don't care as much. I care more about people and hanging out and doing stuff that matters. That's why the philanthropy was first, because you'll get more out of it than you will the material things. But material is the last thing on the list. So this is like where homes come in, vehicles, trinkets, any form of transportation. Some people want a boat, some people want a horse, just things you'd want. Farm. I actually have all of those listed. I have a beach, a cabin, a condo in the city. So I kind of wanted the, talk about ADHD. I wanted the 4 seasons, but I wanted them in 4 different places like houses in the world. Because the idea always is to have a business that was international, so I could travel from coast to coast, and at basically 3 months at each place. I actually, which is funny, because I was like, I really haven't met anybody that's done that. And then when Lisa said she had 3 homes, I actually spent the other evening at like 1 in the morning talking to Lisa Grossman all about, I was like, so I have a question. I said, you got a home in Dallas, and then you have the farm or whatever, and then you have a home in Singapore. I said, have you ever been like, oh my God, I forgot something in Singapore, or I'm sorry, in Hong Kong. I forgot my coat in Hong Kong. She's like, no, I just get 3 of everything. I'm like, okay, problem solved. Put it on the list. Material. So that's how you do it. If you have 4 homes, you buy 4 of everything. So you have 1 for each house depending on what you like. So if it's shoes or whatever. So the minimalist lifestyle isn't going to work real well having that go on. But it does make sense. For the lake house, I wanted to have a boat and jet skis. I don't know if you've ever run around on jet skis. The same thing at the beach place. Jet skis are amazing. They're also really dangerous, but here's the difference between jet skis and motorcycles. On motorcycles, people still try to use their phone and text. I haven't seen anybody on a jet ski scrolling through Facebook yet. But I'm sure somebody's tried it. Okay, so this is what's crazy. We've only gotten through number 2 on this list, so I got to speed up, like, real quick. Number 2 was the top 10 of the top 10, so that's what we have. Number 3 is you categorize each one of the things you wrote down by a time frame. Like, when would I want this in my life? Is this, like, super important? I want it in the next 1 to 2 years? Is it more of a 2 to 5 year goal? Is it more of a 10, 20 lifetime goal? Because some of the philanthropy stuff, like if you want to give away X number of dollars to set up a fund that's generational, that may be, hey, this is a 50-year goal. That's 3. Number 4 is you pick from anything that's in the 0 to 5 year range, and you pick the top thing off of each one of the lists. And what you do is you create your top 10 of your top 10. So this is my top 10 list of my top 10. That's the 4th thing to do. So this is stuff that I want to achieve in the next 2 to 5 years. And with that list in each one of these categories, what we then do is basically build our 5-year vision statement. Now, I'm not finished doing this, but it's almost done. How many people know what Mad Libs are? Okay, Monica knows what Mad Libs are. Have you ever heard of Mad Libs, Bess? Okay, Mad Libs is like the thing where it's like a story already pre-written, but it has like add a noun, add a adjective, add a verb. So over to the side, it's like we need a noun, we need a verb, we need a color, we need this. And what happens is you take that list and add it into the story, and you create this crazy, normally it's an insane story. It's really funny because, you know, you'll be like Brown, but you don't know the story yet. You make the list on one side, then you turn the page and add it all in, and it's like, you know, today I woke up and I ate a brown egg, you know, while I was riding a zebra. Like, it'll ask you, like, what kind of animal is your favorite animal? And, you know, and I was riding a butterfly or something like crazy like that. Well, what I realized is the reason most people don't write a vision statement is most people, just like most people don't think the same, there's only a small category of people who are really good at writing. So this is another thing that I gave David Byrd. I said, you're asking people to write this 5-year vision statement, but there's very few people that are very good at writing, and people usually don't like starting things that they're not good at. So I said, what if I create it like a Mad Lib, where we kind of have the blueprint of everything of these 10 categories, right? My faith, here's what happens, my family, my finance, my business, my fitness, and what we have is basically a paragraph for each section. And then you take the stuff you want and you add it in, And I had an example here. I don't think I have it right here, but I had an example, but it basically says, you know, what kind of house do you want? What's the square footage? What's this? And then what happens is it starts out, I'm sitting in my 10,000 square foot house, location, beach, at the beach, and then it's like how many bedrooms, that it has 5 bedrooms, 10 bedrooms, this many bathrooms, this, and it's very detailed. You know, it has this kind of kitchen, this kind of countertops. And as you read through it, I actually did this in a seminar, and I only had the first 3 paragraphs. And I said, how many people can actually visualize? I had somebody stand up and give me all the categories. And I said, how many people can visualize this person's house? And everybody raised their hand. And I was like, that's what we're trying to achieve here. You want your vision statement to be so clear that you can actually see the stuff. Because what you become familiar with, you will become focused on and achieve. I can't remember. Ed Millett said something the other day. Familiarity leads to, and I can't remember what exactly he said. I'll find it. It's good. If you remember, Bess, I think I sent that one to you. So, where are we at? We're at 5-year vision statement. So basically what you do is you write this 5-year vision statement, and it's you sitting 5 years in the future, and you write it as if you've already achieved everything. So here I am. I'm sitting in my house with these cars, with my family. Here's what everything looks like, and it needs to be written out. And here's the thing. It doesn't have to be necessarily perfectly accurate. It just has to be empowering and motivating. And it's using the same part of your brain that creates fear. You're creating faith that you're going to achieve this. And you read it over and over again, and what you become familiar with becomes your obsession. Does that make sense to everybody? Like, it's really powerful. This is visualization. 6 is a mission statement, which is basically how you're going to achieve your 5-year vision statement. And then 7 is your purpose statement, why you're going to achieve it. So the 5-year vision is where you're going to be in 5 years. The mission statement is how you're going to get there. The purpose statement is why you're doing it. This is basically how to lock yourself in, where you can create all of the compelling reasons why, where you're like, I'd be stupid if I don't do this. And here's the thing. If you do it this way, what it'll do is it'll override all of your blocks. A lot of the stuff that I hear a lot of coaches work on with blocks and this, that, and the other thing, this overrides that system in a lot of cases. It's really wild. I'll get in. Bess and I will have a conversation about that later. But I think the block stuff that you're talking about will just add to what we're doing. What it does is it identifies your problem faster, which is really cool. 8, you want one big goal for the year. So we've basically built, what you're doing is taking this really wide funnel of everything, narrowing it down to your top 10, narrowing it down to your 5-year vision, narrowing down to your mission and your purpose. So now you know what you're doing, you know why you're doing it, you know how you're doing it. Because the more you become familiar with something, the more you're likely you are to focus on it. One big goal for the year. So what you do is then narrow it down for 5 years down to 1 year. What do I need to accomplish this year to be on track at 5 years? Well, that's where you put a dollar figure. So that's one of the things that I have people do when they create their top 10 or their top 10. I just put a dollar figure next to how much it would cost to get all this. That's something people usually don't do. They're like, I want this house. Well, how much is it? I don't know. Well, where would you have it at? Well, I think I'd love it in the mountains of Tennessee. I said, well, let's get online right now and look at the mountains of Tennessee and see what those houses cost, because I bet you could narrow it down and know within a couple, maybe $100 grand or $300 grand of what that house would actually cost. And then we can use a mortgage calculator and find out what the mortgage is on it. I did this one time, and the person's like, I might move right now. I'm like, easy, Seabiscuit. We're not trying. I'm like, I wasn't asking you to sell your house and move. They had ADHD too. 9 is a monthly action plan. So what do I need to do monthly? What do I need to do monthly to make that happen? 10, weekly objective. What is the weekly objective to hit the monthly objective to hit their 1-year goal? And then 11 is daily method of operation. What are the key performance indicators? There's probably a half a dozen things that I need to do on a regular basis to achieve this. Now, obviously, if we're relating this to your network marketing business, this is how to build the structure to force yourself. What it does is it bypasses your natural human instinct. Your natural human instinct is to go back to your comfort zone. Your natural human instinct is to go back to your block. Your natural human instinct is to eat Cheetos and sit on the couch and worry about something that happened in your past rather than moving forward. But when you track this, here's the 12th thing. The 12th thing is tracking and accountability. There's only one more thing you need to add to this, is if you can't do this on your own, you can't track it, and the accountability doesn't help, guess what the one thing that can help is? A coach. Or a mentor. That's the person that basically helps you overcome your block. Now this, what I just ran through, it'll take us half a day to go through this stuff. But once you have it, it's not completely that it's done. It's just you have a blueprint now to work off of to kind of keep working and figuring this stuff out. Does that make sense? Guys, we've gone way past normal time. I apologize. But I hope you got a lot out of this. You know, the math is pretty important. I see a bunch of people have stayed, so you're just as crazy as we are. Bess, I'm going to turn this back over to you for a couple minutes, and then we will have to stop the recording and answer some questions.
Thanks, Jeff. That was a real nice preview of the upcoming seminar in Minneapolis coming up. It's pretty wonderful. Yeah, it includes a lot of things. So thank you. And I think that you might have stretched all of us tonight thinking about our dreams. We lose the ability to dream somewhere, gosh, when we start going to school and teenage years and, you know, life, you know, we start hearing people think, oh, be realistic. You know, you can't have that. You know, you can't reach that. That would be too hard to get. They're just speaking for themselves, but people do lose that ability to dream, so it's pretty precious to recapture it. I talked with one financial expert in Austin a while back. When I used to live in Austin, I used to live in San Diego. But I said, well, what's the one thing, you know, one big block that you see in people? I said, the ability, they've lost their ability to dream. That was her big message for people. So very important. And by the way, carrot cake there's raw carrot cake too. There's actually everything that you like you can make in a healthy way, I found, because I've made it up. I've created all this stuff. But yeah, in Whole Foods in Austin, raw carrot cake, all raw, made with nuts and raw carrots, and there's raw cream and everything, raw honey. So can be done. Traveling. I have met Facebook friends all over the world that I could come and stay with too. So and I love what you said about I could have asked for more. You know, with meeting Nick and John, you got to meet in one place. So I'm coming away from this with ask for more. You know, I could have asked for more. Why not? So let ourselves remove the limits that we have placed on ourselves from other people, from our own discouragements, from our own mind, or own negative beliefs. Let us ask for more. Because that's, whatever you point your camera at, that's what it develops. Whatever you look at, whatever you expect, want, dream, vision. So let us see if we can just shed off those limits. Jim has a takeaway here, so I just wanted to share that. Anyway, those were some of mine. And when we got on here, Jeff and I were just saying, yeah, I'm prioritizing, like I was sharing with him, I'm prioritizing like crazy, you know, as far as time management. Jim's takeaway here. If you continue to think like you've always thought, you'll get what you always get. So that's what he got out of the class tonight. Thank you. And I'd like to open it up for everyone. Maybe it can be brief, but we're, you know, you've listened to us, we're here to listen to you. So this is, oh, have we stopped the recording yet?